Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Bhad Paramahansa Rudikacharya Ashtoto to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtoto the Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of February 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 10, entitled The Opulence of the Absolute, text number 6, page 427. Maharshayak Saptapurve Chatvaro Manavastata Madbhava Manasajata Yeshang Lokahimapaja Maharshayak Saptapurve Chatvaro Manavastata Madbhava Manasajata Yesham Lokahimapaja Maharshayak Saptapurve Chatvaro Manavastata Madbhava Manasajata Yeshang Lokahimapaja Maharshayak Saptapurve Chatvaro Manavastata Madhbhava manasa jata yeshang loka hima praja maharshayak sapta purve chatvaro manavastata madhbhava manasa jata yesham loka hima praja. Maharishiyak, the great sages, Sapta, 7, Purve, before, Chatvaraha, 4, Manavaha, Manus, Tata, also, Madhbhava, born of me, Manasaha, from the mind, Jataha, born, Yesham, of them, Loke, in the world, Imaha, all these, Prajaha, population. Translation, Krishna says to Arjuna, the 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus, the progenitors of mankind, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. Purport. The Lord is giving a genealogical synopsis of the universal population. Brahma is the original creature born out of the energy of the Supreme Lord, who is known as Hiranyagarbha. And from Brahma, all the 7 great sages, and before them 4 other great sages, named Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumara, and the 14 Manus are manifested. All these 25 great sages are known as the patriarchs of the living entities all over the universe. There are innumerable universes and innumerable planets within each universe, and each planet is full of population of different varieties. All of them are born of these 25 patriarchs. Brahma underwent penance for 1,000 years of the demigods before he realized by the grace of Krishna how to create. Then from Brahma came Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar. Then Rudra, and then the 7 sages. And in this way all the Brahmins and Kshatriyas are born out of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma is known as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and Krishna is known as Prapitamaha, the father of the grandfather. That is stated in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 1139. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Krishna is continuing to describe how he is the source of everything, and that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Various ways he's mentioned that. Here he's giving a little summary of the genealogy, as Prabhupada says, how everything has come down and created, and of the great sages and of Brahma, and Kumaras are mentioned again. Krishna is the source. And so, naturally, he and he will say in 2 verses, which we're going to reach that key verse tonight, that Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, I am the source of everything. And here in this chapter, it's called Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti, which this phrase comes in the next verse, simply the delineation of a small fragment of Krishna's glories by one who should know them the best, namely Krishna himself. And it's just a way, it's just another angle of understanding who Krishna is and what his powers are, just to get a little glimpse of them. And so Arjuna will be convinced of Krishna's divinity in this chapter, and yet he will still ask for more. He will ask for other ways in which he can perceive you, because he's asking for us. The whole Bhagavad Gita was arranged. Arjuna was put into this position of doubt and ignorance by Krishna, so that the Gita could be spoken and that it will be recorded and it will be here in human society for all time for our benefit. So how are we going to be convinced that Krishna is God? Well, the different people are convinced in different ways, and mostly in our conditioned state, we're convinced when we get an inkling of the power, of the amazing power and glory of God, and we realize our position as servants, as is insignificant, and that we shouldn't try to, and we cannot even conceive of trying to imitate some of these glories that he's going to be delineating here, and that he has delineated. Okay, if there's no comment or question, text 7. And here the very title of the chapter is included in the verse. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra sangshayaha. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. The highest summit of spiritual perfection is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is firmly convinced of the different opulences of the Supreme Lord, he cannot engage in devotional service. Generally, people know that God is great, but they do not know in detail how God is great. Here are the details. If one knows factually how God is great, then naturally he becomes a surrendered soul and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. When one factually knows the opulences of the Supreme, there is no alternative but to surrender to him. This factual knowledge can be known from the descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures. In the administration of this universe, there are many demigods distributed throughout the planetary system, and the chief of them are Brahma, Lord, got these pictures here, Lord Shiva, and the 4 great Kumaras and the other patriarchs. There are many forefathers of the population of the universe, and all of them are born of the Supreme Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original forefather of all forefathers. These are some of the opulences of the Supreme Lord. When one is firmly convinced of them, he accepts Krishna with great faith and without any doubt, and he engages in devotional service. All this particular knowledge is required in order to increase one's interest in the loving devotional service of the Lord. One should not neglect to understand fully how great Krishna is, for by knowing the greatness of Krishna, one will be able to be fixed in sincere devotional service. So, you may have heard the different types of relationships one can have with Krishna, 5 basic rasas, beginning with Shanta Ras. It's Shanta Ras, Dasya Ras, Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, and Madhurya Ras. Now each of them progressively is more, we would say, more an intimate relationship with Krishna. Shanta Ras is characterized, now as its name says, peacefulness. And that is simply being satisfied and fully blissful, contemplating the greatness of Krishna, the personality of Krishna, but not engaging in any active service. An important element of the Shanta Ras is complete detachment from material attraction. Then one could be situated in the Shanta Ras. Example of Shanta Ras would be even in Vrindavan, Krishna's flute and the grass. Harekrishna. Looks like he's going to behave himself. Mm-hmm. Right here. Very peaceful. Shanta. Say Shanta Ras. Shanta Ras. Totally peaceful. She's sleeping. Is she or he? Is it he? He's sleeping. You can have a seat. Anyway, either way, you can sit here. Yeah, if you want a chair, you can sit on the chair. It's okay? All right. Okay. All right. If another gentleman comes in, you're going to need to slip over here. It's okay for now. But if another man comes in, he will sit there, and we try not to mix. But this is all right for now. Okay. Okay, back to our verse. We're on text 7, page 428 of your book. Krishna is describing how he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The chapter is called Vibhuti Yoga, which means understanding the glory and power of God. There's different aspects. There's Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So this is the yoga of contemplating the glories of the Lord in details. So, as I was explaining, there's different ways that we can relate to God. Most people, if they want to relate, they enter into a position of what we call dasya ras, or servant. They agree to be a servant of God. They understand the glories of God. But as Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, to really have sustained faith in our position as servants of God, we need to understand in some detail just how powerful God is. We've already heard some of that in previous chapters. In the 7th chapter, he delineated how Krishna creates all of this material energy, it's called. Like what is this world made of? Well, solid matter and gases and fire, like electricity, right? And space, liquids, water. We have a lot of water out here. That's certainly a major element that we're made of. And then they have subtle elements, which you often don't think of: mind, intelligence, a sense of self. These are all different building blocks which Krishna uses to create this world. And so just understanding that, and that another aspect, he all-pervading. There's three general qualities that in Western theology and philosophy are attributed to God. First is omnipotence, certainly all-powerful. All-knowing, he knows everything. And omnipresent, he's everywhere. When you think about it, you can't really know everything unless you are everywhere. All right? How are you going to know all the details? You have to be there. So Krishna expands into every atom as the super soul, and he expands into every heart as the super soul. So that omnipotence, omnipresence, omniscience has already been described in various ways in previous chapters. I was thinking of chapter 7, how he delineates that. In chapter 9, and chapter 8 we heard some about it, chapter 9 we heard more details. But here the whole chapter practically is about that. He's already spoken about how he's the source of everything in various ways. And then here he says the benefit of knowing this is text 7, one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind, engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. And so this is the way we enter into the realm of bhakti. But it doesn't mean it ends there. As we learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam and other of our literatures, one can have various relationships with Krishna on that foundation of understanding that he's the supreme and I'm the servant. And one of those relationships is dasya, as I mentioned, as a servant. Another is as a friend who can possibly, contemplate that in Western theology. That really can only, that relationship is only present in the highest realm of this Krishna's world, which is called Goloka Vrindavan. That's the Krishna that we know is most famous. That's the Krishna is on the altar. The one who's there playing a flute. He's not playing a flute to dominate anything. He's not creating any planets or universes. He's just playing the flute because he likes the flute. And it's very attractive. It charms all of his residents in Goloka Vrindavan. And when does he play the flute? When he's out there with the coward boyfriends. And they don't know he's God. He covers that glory of God so that you can have a more intimate relationship. I was just reading some of the childhood pastimes of Krishna. It's amazing. There's nothing like that in Western theology. That God puts himself in such a position that he's afraid of his mother because he was naughty. He broke a pot of yogurt and stuff. What is that? That's not God. It's nothing God I ever heard about. But you can see that, what's the result of that is that his mother thinks of him as her child, naughty child, and he needs some disciplining. He's much more attracted to that than his awe and reverence, more or less fear of God, I put the fear of God in them, you know what I mean? In other words, that's the basic principle of those who are in the material world, simple theology, where, well, it's very hard to stop sinning. So the best we can do is pray to God for forgiveness, and then do it again. This is there's a lot of fear there because we know we're going to be punished. But maybe He'll mitigate the punishment if we pray hard. But that's kind of very rudimentary relationship with God, and to have the details of the personality, the beauty, the all attractiveness of God. That's the very meaning of the word Krishna, attractive, not just awe-inspiring and a bit frightful. We're going to get that in the next chapter. Arjuna asked to see the universal form, and Krishna manifests his form with thousands of heads, and he's destroying all of the enemies. He's crushing their heads within his teeth, and Arjuna, what happened to my friend? This is a friend of Krishna. What happened to my friend? Who are you? He doesn't know. And Krishna answers, what he says? Just imagine the sound reverberating like the clouds, Kalosmi loka chayakrit pravidho. I am time. I am come to destroy everyone. So Arjuna says, he's frightened. He says, please show me your other form. I've had enough already. And Krishna then shows him his original form. But that is the power of God. He is time, all destroyed. You think about it, we're all in the grips of time. All of our plans, eventually, time just destroys everything. It develops and then it destroys everything. And so anything that we're trying to achieve and to make last in this world is hopeless. Nothing's going to last. Our very lives are very fleeting. So what is there that will last? We ourselves. This is the first lesson of Gita. We'll never die. I made a little poem. Every body dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. T-shirt? He made a T-shirt out of one of my little poems. What was it? Don't sin, you can't win. Love God, not the bod. Chant Hare Krishna. We're selling those. Are we selling those in the store yet? They'll be available in the store. So, but that everybody dies, nobody dies. That's from a verse. Andavanda hime deha nitya sokta shiririna. It's right here in the Bhagavad Gita. Andavanda hime deha. All these Krishna's on the battlefield with Arjuna. He's speaking to thousands and thousands of soldiers, elephants, horses, ready to do battle. So Krishna says, all of these bodies are subject to destruction. But the dwellers within the body, the soul, never die. Andabandhi me deha nitya sokta shirena. Every body dies, space between every and body. That's why it's important to be able to see it. Every body dies. Nobody dies. Wake up. Because we as the soul never die, but our bodies will die. So, back to our analysis of the different rasas. So the Shanta ras is just being completely happy to contemplate the Lord, be conscious of God, but not have any active service. Dasya ras is more active. It includes Shanta ras. You're completely happy and completely satisfied thinking of Krishna. You're not attracted to any kind of material pleasure. You're firmly fixed in that understanding of your position in God's, but you want to do some active service. And that's the position in, say, Vaikuntha. Everyone there has a sense of awe and reverence for Krishna, and they're situated as servants. Vaikuntha means no anxiety. You'll never get kicked out. There's no death there. Everyone's on a spiritual platform. But only in the highest planet, the personal planet of Krishna, Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, will you find the upper three rasas, Sakya ras. To actually be a friend of Krishna, he much prefers that, to the awe and reverence. Because there, again, he hides his divinity so that he can have this intimate relationship with all these friends. Sometimes they'll wrestle with Krishna and he'll lose, and then they'll climb up on his back and everything, and it's all in good fun, obviously. But and sometimes some demon will come, especially in the earthly Vrindavan, and Krishna will kill the demon, and the gopas just glorify him like anything. Or The one that's really amazing, I was reading the Kaliya pastime, where Krishna is captured by this big snake, that multi-headed, hooded snake that took over the part of the river of the Kalindi, or the Yamuna River. And it was poisoning everything, the first real heavy water pollution, and everything was dying. And so Krishna dove in, and they challenged the snake, and Kaliya grabbed him. And it looks like a goner. Krishna has this delicate little body, a little boy, and here's this monstrous snake in the water, and he got enwrapped Krishna in his coils. Krishna's not moving. And all of his parents and friends came to the bad omens, and they came to the river bank, and his boys were already, wailing, and they were, oh my, Krishna's a goner. The cows, the calves, the parents, everybody. They were all on the bank just, lamenting like anything. Krishna looks like he's finished. Except for Balaram, his brother. Balaram knew that Krishna wasn't in any danger, so they wanted to go in to try to save him, but as soon as you go in, you die from the poison. So Balaram prevented anyone from actually going in. So what was it, like 2 hours? They were just Mother Yashoda, they were all, on the verge of death from agony. And then he breaks out. He breaks out of the coils, and he keeps circling, and he tires him. Then he jumps up and he starts dancing on the hoods. It said, I read some of the commentaries, this is the origin of all of the rhythms that have come down, musical rhythms. Krishna's dancing on those hoods. Not just one hood, but one hood would come up and he would punish it with the dancing. So this is what Krishna engineers in Vrindavan. It's all this churning up of the rasa. He lives for rasa. The Shastra says raso vaisa, means that he's made of rasa. Just like we. What do we live for here? Some relationship, loving exchange. This a beautiful little child getting so much love, right? There's a relationship there. So Krishna, he wants that more than this adulation, certainly more than any fearful, worship. That's not so pleasing. But when someone loves him, like he says in the last chapter, Patram Pushpam Balam Toyam. Here's how you can start your bhakti. Anyone. There's no prerequisite. It's not that only a certain class, a certain age, a certain gender. No, anyone, you just offer me with love and devotion, a fruit, a little flower, a leaf, some water, or any juice or something, and you do it with love, and I'll eat it. In other words, it can awaken your natural and long dormant affection for God. The simple process, and mostly hearing about Him, chanting about Him, learning about Him, and following instructions that have come down how to practically serve Krishna in your life. Set up an altar, all this. So here Krishna says, the result of understanding this glory of mine, one is factually convinced of this opulence, basically that I'm the creator of everything, understands in truth, engages in unalloyed devotional service. Avikalpena yogena. What does avikalpena mean? Without division. Yogena. Yoga means bhakti yoga. There's no doubt about it. So we all start from that position of understanding who we are and understanding the glory of God. And then from practicing devotion to Krishna, especially that manifestation of God, we can discover our eternal rasa with the Lord. That's been covered for eons. Because we're all moving through various bodies, but they're not really us. We're all wearing these different costumes. Krishna describes it that way. That vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya nabani gunnati naro parani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani yanyani sangyati nabani dehi. That just as we've had experience, we take off an old garment that's worn out and discard it and put on a new one. Similarly, when this body is worn out and doesn't work anymore, we discard it and put on a new one. But it's not up to us. In other words, there's higher powers doing it, but that's really what's happening. We're wearing a series of garments, costumes, if you will, that are covering our real self. We can't perceive this, but that's the way it's described. You can understand even in this one lifetime, like this little child, how old is he? Just like a few months? 3 weeks old. Okay. That's about as young as you can get. So he has a certain body. Now, we were all once 3 weeks old, every single one of us, right? We don't remember that. Our parents do. So, but then gradually everything is nice and he stays healthy and he grows. What does the growing mean? Well, he's changed the body. The soul is the same. The soul in the body remains the same. But the body changes, and so the awareness changes also. You know? I mean, all of us, can you all remember, like, the first thing you can remember? Way back when I was 5 years old, I don't know, everyone has an old. But I remember riding a tricycle. I don't remember much more than that. Probably my brother was after me, my older brother. But that's it, And gradually as you go up, there's a few other things, high points that you can remember. Anyway, I want to tell some stories. My brother tried to beat me up one time. My father saved me at the last minute. I probably wouldn't be sitting here. So that changed. I gradually grew up and I entered a new body. Now I'm sitting here, same person, but a whole different body. 72-year-old body, I don't feel like I'm 72. But so at one point, so it's just a machine. It's a very complicated machine. And the illusion is we identify with whatever machine we're in. Oh, okay, I'm an American, or I'm whatever, because I was born in America, I speak a certain language like that. But that's illusion. No more than I'm an orange coat, and you're more of a maroon coat. No, we human beings, devotees, we happen to be wearing different things. So the actual seeing of oneness of all as spirit is an important understanding. But then what is our real nature? If I'm going through all these different bodies and I'm not any of them, what is my actual form? What is my swarup? The word rupa in Sanskrit means form. And swarup means the real form that doesn't change. That's who you really are. We've never seen that, or we haven't seen it in millions of years. So discovering that is the real goal of bhakti. And you do it by acting on the basis of the basic principle of devotion, which is we're servants of God. And so we act in that way. We chant His glory, try to remember Him at all times. And gradually He reveals from within the heart who we actually are. That's how it's going to work. So here you say the basic principle is to understand my glory as God and that we're all servants. And then if they understand it, they'll engage in devotional service. And then everything will follow from there. It will come. Krishna will enlighten us more and more. And that's what is happening in the Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna, he will, say in a few verses, Padam Brahma, Padam Dhamma, you are God, you are the supreme absolute truth. But what he doesn't say is that, and therefore I will now fight, because you want me to. That's really where it's all ending. That's the reason for speaking it. But there's these more chapters, the rest of 10th chapter, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, which expand on ideas that have already been given, to give us more faith and more conviction, so we can come to the point of surrender. So, any discussion on this point? These points? Now, we're going to read the first of the 4 essential verses of Bhagavad Gita. You've come at a very auspicious time. Text number 8 of chapter 10 through 11 is said to be the heart of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Okay, so on page 429. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti madva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So, obviously, before I read this purport, faith in this statement is the foundation of bhakti. If you actually believe this, as he says, if they know this perfectly, they engage. So there's a lot of quotes here in this purport that Srila Prabhupada probably took, if I understand how he wrote this, from the previous commentators. And so many of them are from the Vedas, from the Upanishads, because for many people that's more authoritative even than other books. So you're going to hear a lot of that here. Purport. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. Prabhupada is just summarizing the previous verses in this chapter. In the Atharva Veda, the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 124, it is said, Yo Brahmanam vidadhati purvam, yo vai vedangs chagapayati sma Krishnaha. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Then again, the Narayan Upanishad 1 says, Ata Purusho Havai Narayano Kamayata Praja Sujayati. Then the Supreme Personality, Narayan, desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayanam Brahma Jayate, Narayanam Prajapati Pajayate, Narayanat Indro Jayate, Narayanat Ashtau Vasavo Jayante, Narayanat Ekadasha Rudra Jayante, Narayanat Dvadasadityaha. From Narayan, Brahma is born, and from Narayan, the patriarchs are also born. From Narayan, Indra is born. From Narayan, the 8 Vasus are born. From Narayan, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayan, the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayan is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putraha, the son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayana Upanishad 4. Then it is said, Eko va Narayana asina Brahma ne shano napo nagni somao neme dyav apativi nakshatrani nasuryaha. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality, Narayan. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, and no sun. This is from the Mahapanishad 1-2. In the Mahapanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Mokshadharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says, Prajapatim charudram chap yaham eva sujami vai tauhimam navijanito mama maya mohitao. The patriarchs, Shiva, and others are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me, because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana, it is also said, Narayanak paro devas tasmajatas chaturmukha tasmad ruddom bhavandeva sachasarva gatam gataha. Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me, no one is above me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna-conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on the Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. So, there's quite a tour de force of quotes from all of them you may notice is from the Upanishads, which are, as I mentioned, often regarded as more authoritative than any other Vedic literatures, these Vedas. And here, just to show you, give you a little preview of what's coming here. In the vast philosophy of Krishna consciousness, there's different ways of organizing the knowledge. And one of the ways is the three divisions of Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. And actually these apply to any kind of endeavor that you want to take up. Suppose you want to become a really good car mechanic. Okay. So what do? Well, why do you want to become a car mechanic? Well, because, my father and my brother were car mechanics, and I have a propensity for that. I like to work with my hands, whatever, And that would be a good way to earn a living, And I like cars. Okay, so that's your goal. Becoming expert car mechanic and like that. Well, what do? Well, I don't know what to do. So I have to find out what's what with car mechanics. So you go to your friend or your relative or somebody, and you hang out with them. They're expert car mechanics. So right away, this is called Sambandha. Like I never passed that. I didn't want to become a car mechanic. So if my car ever broke down, I would sometimes, get out of the car. You have to get out of the car. Get out of the car, open the hood, look at the hood, look inside, not know what's going on, and close the hood and call somebody. And just fake it. But some people, they know what's going on in that car, and they can say, "Oh, I see, you have a problem here." So you have to learn something. That's called Sambandha. What's in those old days, carburetor? I don't know if you remember the carburetors. A carburetor, and what's where is it? How does the gas come in, and all these different things. And then before before they'll let you really touch anything, you have to learn what's going on. So then comes practice. Okay, I've got it down. I know how to change the tires. Okay, so they'll let you change the tires. This is called Abhidheya. Practice. Practice makes perfect, right? So there's a certain practice, and if you follow the instructions of previous Karacharyas, you can make them the word Karacharyas, those who have experience, expertise, then you can gradually come along, and you get expert. And after a while, they let you, actually work on something substantial. The guru is looking over your shoulder, correcting. And after a while, you say, "Well, he's getting pretty good." Okay, and okay, I got my I'm sure there's no certificate. I'm going to open my own garage, because I've got expertise. So that's the goal. So Sambandha Abhidheya Prayojana means finding out what's going on, practicing in such a way you become expert, and then reaching the goal. Now in Bhakti Yoga, we have that also. The first, and these 4 verses that I told you, 8, 9, 10, 11, these are essential. They cover all of these things in kind of a code way. So the first line here, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mantak sarvam pravartade, this is Sambandha. The Sambandha breaks down to basically these 3 elements. Where is the source of everything? What's the source of this? We know we exist and we're in this world. Where did it come from? And what is this world made of? And what's the relationship between God, let's call him, and this world and myself? Okay? And how do I fit in? How do I understand all these energies in God? The elements of the source of everything, this world, myself, and what are the relationships? And that it's in code here, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the source of everything. Well, what is that everything? Sarvasya. That we heard, as I explained in the 7th chapter, the different energies: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. These are like the building blocks. And then there's the superior energy, the living entity. And then we learn from other sources about a whole different source of kind of energy, spiritual energy, in this spiritual world that we're talking about. That's another element. So when you learn about that, then it builds your faith with, it should, that you really want to not just know about it, but you want to understand it viscerally. It means like from gyan to vigyan. Just like you can hear the description of a certain, they say halva. A lot of people say halva is like a revelation when they come. They never had it before. It's so buttery and sweet, and sometimes they put, these dried fruit in there, and it's very delicious. Okay, I have faith. Let me try some. So that gyan, knowledge, is knowing about it, and vigyan is tasting it, is it? So you understand how this world works, and Krishna is God, and now I want to really experience it. And that's the second part. So we're going from Sambandha to Abhideya in all one verse here. Those who believe this, who understand this, they worship me with all their hearts. You see that? Buddha bhava samanvata, intelligence, learned. Bhava samanvata, with great attention, and they worship me. Okay, so now we're in Abhideya, the practice. And then in the 9th verse, we'll just have a little review here, a preview. He gives the essence of how to worship him. Machita margata prana bodhayantak parasparam katayantaschamam nindam tushyanti chadamanticha. Now this is an interesting verse because you don't need any paraphernalia. We're doing it right now. In other words, it's not something way out there, it's something in your own hand. Machita, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. They think of me. Madgata prana, their lives are fully devoted to my service. And they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Well, all I need to do is kind of just converse about Krishna and I'll get all the bliss. In other words, it's open to all, this practice. And they think of me, machita, and they devote their lives as far as possible to my service. And how that's done, that's detailed from experience, just like the mechanic. They tell you how to do it, what to do, and what not to do in any practice. So this is this is now Abhideya. This is the practice. Then what about Krishna's side? How does he reciprocate? That's in the next verse. This is moving toward Prayojana, because when Krishna is reciprocating, he's revealing himself. Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love. Now, in other words, that can be, the foundation of that is in text 9, but of course there's a lot more to it. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In other words, remember, Krishna is in our hearts, and he's responding to our efforts to serve him. And so, what we're getting enlightened. This is called enlightenment. I give them the intelligence. I provide the instruction from within, and it's confirmed by the acharyas and the teachers without, And then the last verse, he expands on that, and it's out of his mercy. In other words, he's reciprocating to show them special mercy. I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. The lamp of knowledge. This is called enlightenment. You ever heard of that word? So this is, it's all there in these 4 verses. Krishna is giving us the reciprocation. And when the ignorance and darkness is fully destroyed, then we've achieved prema bhakti, which is the goal of the whole thing, and that's the prayojana. So these verses are very important, and we'll continue studying them. Why don't we read one more? Text number 9. Machita mangata prana bodhiyantak parasparam katayantaschamam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Purport. Pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage they are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if it goes on hearing and chanting, harekrishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering. The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahmajyoti effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as the plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees, as stated in the Bhagavatam itself, 12, 13, 18. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing but material. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association. So, Srila Prabhupada's wonderful purport here. This planting of the seed is called the Bhakti Lata Bij. Bij means seed, and Bhakti Lata means a creeper that grows. And when that seed is planted by association with the great devotees, then we have to water it, just like you water any plant, And the watering process is mostly this chanting and hearing, just like we have kirtan, and we hear and chant and hear. So that's even mentioned in this verse, Katayantastamam Nityam. They're always speaking about me and hearing about me, and thus experiencing this transcendental pleasure. So that Tushyanti and Ramanti becomes pleased and enjoy transcendental bliss. So it's a refining of our consciousness, a purification of our consciousness. And it can be directly experienced. That's how this movement has grown and been taken up all over the world. Because there's something tangible there. If someone just comes into the association, hears the kirtan, there's some experience that's unique there. And if you're fortunate and you want to find out about it and you keep coming, then the purification takes place and you can start to taste some of that transcendental pleasure. And if we really follow the process, now one thing about it is that at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Krishna assures us there's no loss in this process, even from birth to birth. Everything that you try to accumulate on the material plane, obviously you have to leave here when you leave the body, right? But when you leave this body, you take with you your spiritual assets. So you pick up next life. Now, we should try to want to go back to Godhead in this one lifetime. That would be most logical, because otherwise, even if we're devotees, we have to take birth again, which is not very pleasant. Although you forget, but still, that being in the material world is fraught with so many dangers and unpleasantness. So, but the wonderful encouragement is that once, as Prabhupada says, once you start on this path, you're going to complete it. It's up to us to how fast we do it. But there's no going back, So, and who would want to go back when you actually read about and hear about and experience some of the wonders of this? This is, it's like it's an amazing revelation that everything, on the material side is ultimately a complete illusion. No one can be a greater caster of the spell of illusion than Maya. We have so much awareness now of fake news, right? Propaganda. People are becoming aware. It's always been there, but now it's become a thing. You say, well, is that really true? And when the foundation, when you don't know what to believe, then that causes a lot of anxiety. What's actually happening out there? Is the coronavirus coming or not? Are they lying to us? So to understand that it's all a big lie, and that the reality is on a different level, and we can contact that. We can live in the truth. We can actually live in the truth, in spite of all of the madness that's going on, and we should take advantage of that. Srila Prabhupada has provided these books, and the reason that he differentiated himself from the beginning, and we could see that it was true, from all of the other purveyors of so-called yoga and this and that, is that he had no personal motive for this. He didn't come over to America in order to make a killing on yoga and, paint himself as an avatar or anything like that. You can see by the experience. He risked his life. He had no money. He had no friends. His health was, he's 69 years old and almost died on the way. And then when he came, he could have gone back, but he stayed for like over a year in New York City trying to plant these seeds, try to find a little fertile ground in the hearts where the seeds would grow. And finally, Krishna rewarded him in the summer of '66. He found a place. And I've got there's some recordings of that time I can share with you, and you can hear Prabhupada has it's so you can hear it in his voice. He's so eager to cultivate these tender plants of devotion, and his voice shows it. He's finally got a receptive audience. He's got his own place. He doesn't have to be wonder what he says. He's in somebody else's yoga studio, And this is the origin of this movement. These seeds were planted in fertile heart, and we got some committed followers who, helped them. And we're part of that heritage. We should accept it and take it and run with it. Now we have all these books and the temples, and we have so much facility. I'm sorry, I ran over time. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Now.